Hey there everyone, it's Juju Sober Son. Looking kind of gloomy today, a little windy. So if you're into sunshine, it's still up there. So there you have it. You might hear a little bit of windy in the microphone. So July 29th. AA thought for the day. There are 2 days in every week about which we should not worry. 2 days which should be kept from fear and apprehension. One of these days is yesterday, with its mistakes and cares, its faults and blunders, its aches and pains. Yesterday has passed forever beyond our control. All the money in the world cannot bring back yesterday. We cannot undo a single act we performed. We cannot erase a single word we said. Yesterday is gone beyond recall. Do I still worry about what happened yesterday? I suppose in a perfect world, yeah, that's, remove all fear and regret and all that stuff. The fact of the matter is, when these crop up, we have a procedure, as it has been explained to me in the 10th step. When these crop up: selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear, regret. Selfishness, as it says in the 10th step in the big book, I'm not sure what page. We must constantly watch for, in other words, be mindful. I don't believe the AA program calls us to be in a state of constant vigilance. That's a hallmark or a symptom of PTSD. And, sometimes what we do to ourselves can cause a bit of PTSD, right? But in recovery, we allow God to bring these things to our thoughts, and if they're intrusive and cause us harm or grief, then we go into the checklist. Ask God to remove it at once. Ask God at once to remove it. Talk to someone about it. Make amends if necessary. And then turn our thoughts towards someone we can help. Gets us out of our own thoughts. But most importantly, and the really big book talks about this, and I'm not sure exactly where, but it talks about take every thought captive for Christ. Every thought captive. And so, not sure really, I'm sure there are prayers that talk about it and what what we should say in order to take every thought captive. But I don't have it to hand. But, God, please remove this from me. God, I can't. You can. Please do so. That's a helpful thing to pray. And then as we go about our day, they will crop up again. I've had to surrender thoughts over and over and over and over again. And that's okay. That's part of the process. And I think that, just like the 3rd step prayer, it's important for us to, it's not really a one and done thing, that we can say it over and over and over again. I'm on like a little island out here in the water. It's pretty groovy. Meditation for the day. God will not suffer you to be tempted above what you are able, but with the temptation he will also find a way of escape, that you may be able to bear it. If you have enough faith and trust in God, he will give you all the strength you need to face every temptation and to overcome it. Nothing will prove too hard for you to bear. You can face any situation. Be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. You can overcome any temptation with God's help. So fear nothing. Yeah. Fear nothing. Nothing! That scripture, that is actually scripture. God will not suffer you to be tempted above what you are able. I think it's 2 Corinthians 10:13 or something along those lines. 2 Corinthians, I know it's in Corinthians, one of the Corinthians. I can't remember, but anyway, yeah, so in other words, he always provides a way of escape, right? You know, I've heard so many times, just like the guy who, you know, the guy Jim, actually, the guy's name is Jim. In the big book, there's a story about how he showed up to work on a Tuesday for a car dealership that he used to own as an employee of a car dealership that he used to own, and then he has some words with the boss, and then he decides to go outside of town and have a sandwich at a place to look for prospects for people who might want to buy a car, kind of thing. So he goes away from the dealership to see if there's somebody that wants to buy a car. A lot of self-will and a lot of hanky points, right? But he had several points along the way where he could have said, yeah, that's a bad idea, going off in a huff, bad idea, going to a bar. I do believe it was a bar, a tavern or something like that, to get himself a sandwich and a glass of milk. And then of course, when he thought it would be a good idea to drop a shot of whiskey in the glass of milk, that was right when, you know, he could have said, whoa, wait a minute. But it sounded like he really wanted to have a drink anyway, so. But that's just it, you know, no one has been tempted, will never be tempted more than anybody else has. And anybody else who has stood up against the temptation. So it's not like we're being tested any more than any other human being on earth. But sometimes we can act like we have. So it's important to know that we are not alone in our temptation, and that, you know, don't play the victim. You know, I've been tempted too much. Yes, we're being tempted. And I love the scripture that says, resist the devil and he will flee. Resist alcohol, and then you'll see how it's not really. I've heard an old timer say, getting sober is easy as falling off a log. It's more about avoiding certain behaviors than it is about, you know, it's, you know, you gotta eat and that kind of thing. You gotta feed yourself, but you don't have to put alcohol into your body, right? It's not like you're gonna starve to death if you don't drink alcohol. So it's pretty simple, but resist the enemy and it will flee. And you'll see that it's not as difficult to resist as you might think. Ooh. There were some pretty weird looking colors going on over there, and I hope that I'm not gonna step on a on a stingray. A lot of water churning up. Maybe I'll come back in the shower with water. At any rate, prayer for the day. I pray that I may face every situation without fear. I pray that nothing will prove too hard for me to bear. Like I just said, resist the devil, resist the enemy, and it will flee. And I hope that one day I'll be able to, at the very least, feel the fear and do it anyway. Is the name of a popular book from the 90s, I believe. I might pull that out because I know I've heard it said that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to go forward in that fear. And I love that. I'm gonna feel fear, I'm gonna feel anxiety. I would rather that I didn't. I would rather that I feel relaxed and loose, but most of the time I feel anxiety. But AA has taught me that that's okay. That's okay, there's a step to that. And we don't have to allow these things to stop us from moving forward. So keep coming back, y'all. Love you. Look up, aim up, rise up.